Hi, we're Jatoba from Brattleboro, Vermont. You're watching Cider Mag TV.
Hey everyone, I'm Brian from cidermag.com, and I want to welcome you to the very first episode of Cider Mag TV's presentation of Line by Line. Line by Line will explore the coolest and most interesting songwriters around Vermont and New Hampshire. Instead of learning about the band themselves, we'll be diving into the process of songwriting. How do bands go about writing a song? What inspires them? And how does a new idea in their head become a staple of the local music scene? If you've been a follower of Cider Mag, then you'll certainly know our first guests. In fact, anytime Cider Mag has done something new, this band's been a part of it. They were a major inspiration in the creation of Cider Mag. They graced our first cover. They were the first performers at the Cider Awards. And now they sit here as our first guests on Line by Line. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jeff, John, and Jason, Jatoba. Hey guys, how are we doing today? Good, thank you for being here with us.
Thanks for having us.
So we'll get right to it. I'm going to ask you guys some questions about your songwriting and how everything comes about for Jatoba. So Jeff, how do you guys describe your overall songwriting process? Is it an anarchy? Is it incredibly organized? Is there a collaboration involved? How does it work?
It's a pretty good mix of both. Generally what will happen is I'm not much of a songwriter myself. Jason or John will have an idea for a song, or sometimes even, basically the whole song, and they'll bring it to the table. Sometimes we, pick it apart and rearrange everything and, completely dissect it and put it back together. Other times the song is pretty much full formed when it comes to the table, and we basically just do our thing with it and see what comes out the other end.
Cool. So where do your guys' inspiration come from? Where do you guys find inspiration for your songwriting? Jason?
You're talking about like other musical artists or just more
I would say more in
internally?
general. Like,
In general?
is it I go sit outside and let the thought process start, or is there specific things that you see in the media that makes it, that stimulates it? Or
I would say like any outside influence would simulate an idea for a song. Most of the time when I think of songs lately, I think of melodies, and I'm not around an instrument to play them, so I have to like remember it throughout the day, and then when I can finally get to a banjo or guitar, I'll try to play it out. I'm not, I choose not to write about political events and things like that, so if I have an idea, like any kind of stories that come to mind, maybe a movie or maybe something one of my daughters does inspires like an idea like that I'll dissect a little bit, personally, but no, you're right.
I find it very interesting that that he said he hears a melody. Just recently, I've kind of been like really thinking about my personal songwriting, and historically, it's been derived from anguish and heartbreak, and like if things were going things are going bad for me, I was writing some good songs, I feel. But now things have been going pretty well for me, and I'm like, well, I gotta figure out a different kind of muse. And actually, just recently, I woke up in the middle of the night with a melody going through my head and an idea for lyrics. And again, I didn't have my guitar right there or any sort of notebook, so I had to like remember it. And the next day, I was thankful to just pick up my guitar real quick and be able to remember the melody, which is now turning into like a pretty cool song.
do you guys find that the melody comes first, the lyrics come second? Is it completely random?
I think it's a little bit random.
Yeah?
Yeah, like I know I brought plenty of, 4-chord progressions with maybe a bridge or a chorus to John and Jeff, and there's no melody. There's just like, oh hey, this chord voicing sounds cool, and Jeff will like, oh well, that's like a 7th diminished 9th by the 10th power, and we're like, oh that's cool, let's go with that. And then I think most of the time lyrics tend to come later, if it's not a song that for the most part John or I have already written, that we're like, hey, here's this song, let's kind of like in a sense Jatobify it, and open to changes and see how it morphs once all 3 of us play it.
We actually just barely wrote the other night a new one, which was a kind of a banjo lick that Jason had been messing around with for probably like a year.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, and the other night at the beginning of a rehearsal, he was like, "Hey, let's just spend like 20 minutes or something on this." There was no words to it at all, but by the end of the night, it was a fully formed song, and we were able to play it a couple days later. So,
Do you guys find that your rehearsals stimulate the songwriting more than maybe the song already being formed and ready to go? Like, hey guys, I've got this song ready to go, let's rehearse it. Or is it more of, I've got this idea, let's see where it goes?
I feel that that too is a little random. It kind of all depends on the mood of the night. Sometimes, like we're now getting ready, we're starting rehearsals for to work on our second album. But then our first date got pushed back, so we weren't under as much pressure. So we were able to like spend a whole rehearsal on this past song. I think historically, we have
I feel like
until a break.
we go in phases.
We do, yeah.
It's kind of like we'll get into a groove for a while of Jason will have like 6 tunes that he brings to the table, and then we got 6 new tunes. And then sometimes we'll just be jamming out on a lick for a while in practice, and then we'll get new songs that way too. But I've noticed that it's like cyclical, kinda.
Yeah. The one cool thing though is Jason and I both write the tunes. Jeff doesn't necessarily come in with like songs written, but he's an integral part of like helping us arrange it, as well as like helping put the vocals together and like adding the layers of harmonies that we do. That's like where his songwriting, quote unquote, comes in. That's where his like musical creativity is actually like very useful.
I know that these days when I write a song or come up with an idea, I pretty much come up with a melody and I leave it up. I'm like, basically go straight to Jeff to be like, hey, can you arrange, the harmonies for if there's going to be any in the verse, and definitely here's the chorus, what do you hear? And Jeff usually takes, the soprano role on the harmonies, but usually it's more like the fifth or something, right?
Soprano's a woman's voice.
He's got a beautiful soprano voice. Give us a little.
Well, you just cut your hair.
So let's rewind all the way back to the first phase 1 of Jatoba becoming a band and starting. What was your first song that you guys wrote together, and how did that come about?
All 3 of us?
Yeah, all 3 of us?
Well, what was the first song that you guys wrote together?
Ed Brown, probably.
And that was in what, 2000
as like a 3-person effort?
2007, 2008?
I don't know. When was Ed Brown in that standoff with the U.S. Marshals there? 2008, maybe?
Oh, the guy who decided not to pay his taxes and it's like...
That was probably the first truly collaborative one that we did.
And how did that process go compared to how you guys write songs now?
Man in the Mountains was pretty close. Because that song had different forms, and then we wrote that in your old apartment in the kitchen one night and recorded it.
Yeah.
The process is a lot different now. At the beginning, it was Jason and I had a bunch of songs that we've been playing like together acoustically, and then now we had a bass player, so we were trying to get him up to speed. So it's actually like really hard to remember what the actual first one was. I know all of our songs that we brought to the table changed drastically.
An interesting thing about that is they had been playing as just a duo, and there was a lot of things that they were able to do just a duo that were a lot, rhythmically it worked with 2 guitar players or something. And then when you had a bass in it, there was a lot of maybe like an intricate lick or something. There was one song that John wrote, Take Me Away, that you've probably had for what, like 10 years or something?
At this point, not quite, but pretty close.
And they were playing it as a duo before I joined up, and we could never really get it to work right as the 3 of us. And we tried it off and on over the past 5 years, probably like 4 or 5 times, and it never really materialized. But then, within the past couple months, we tried it again and reworked it a little bit, and it finally works.
So there are a lot of things on your table that you guys start and then go, well, this isn't really working. We're gonna table it for a while, and maybe we'll revisit it one night when inspiration hits.
Mm-hmm. We have a bunch of songs that like we try to work out and then just doesn't quite happen. We just shelf it.
Probably like take our entire original repertoire, multiply it by 2. That's probably how much stuff we have shelved that we haven't been able to work on.
Are there things that
Damn,
are there
shoot,
songs
lazy.
there that you think that like the general audience will never hear?
Oh, yeah.
Or do you think that
As
the
Jatoba,
majority
yeah.
of them will eventually become part of the set list?
Well, like the general audience will never hear that song "Walking Shoes" that was on Dusty
Oh, wow.
After the Shaking Pillars of
of
Society and the Dusty Aftermath.
Dusty Aftermath and the
Uh,
Shaking
and the
Pillars
Shaking
of
Society.
Society.
That was when we were a duo. That had the Blizzard on it, which we tried to incorporate when Jeff hopped in like less than a year after that, which that's like at the top of the list, which we're always like, let's rehearse that so we can bring it back, you know, because it shows we hear people calling for it.
We've played it a few times though, and
It's just
it goes well, and then we just don't anymore.
Okay. It's one of those ones that just doesn't quite feel right. Like the song "Take Me Away," and "Take Me Away" had all these parts that eventually one day I was like, we need to play this song. So, like, cut out this whole chunk that I'd been tenaciously like holding on to, and all of a sudden, the song just kind of flows. After this whole like composed part is gone. So.
And I jumped on the banjo.
Yeah,
which
we
was,
changed
we changed the
instrumentation.
instrumentation.
And that's actually a really cool part about some of our songwriting process is, you know, we can come to the rehearsal with an idea, and then you can switch up the instrumentation, and it's a completely new sounding song, but it's the same song, but it might work a lot better with, you know, mandolin and guitar as opposed to like banjo and mandolin, or you know, we just can switch it up.
So let's jump into the first song that we're going to talk about today, "Man in the Mountains," which is one of your older songs, and Jason was the mastermind behind it, right? So
Yeah.
why don't you tell me a little bit about what "Man in the Mountains" was about and where it came from, where you were when the inspiration hit, stuff like that.
What it turned into was the old "Man in the Mountains" in New Hampshire.
Right.
You know, I wrote.
Now the song wasn't originally about that, right?
No, not at all. I was living in Burlington around like 2000, 2001, and I went hiking on Camel's Hump, and I took my Good Time open back banjo up there, and I had a little notebook and my banjo. I was by myself, and I was just hanging out for a couple hours and started writing some lyrics, and pretty much the meat of the way the song is now came from that one day. But lyrically, the instrumentation is like, that song has had 5 different forms to it.
Why do you think that is?
versions.
It's just a
Different
maturity of it,
bands.
or
Well, yeah, well, definitely that, but also just different bands, you know. We played it in bands in Colorado, and, you know, that was kind of cool. We had a female vocalist with us.
and what year did you write this, Steve?
2001 was when the
2001.
lyrics came.
There was a particularly fun Ben Folds-esque version of it at
And
one
that
point.
band Phil and the Fuzz that we were in, a
But that-
Keene college-based band.
That crashed and burned.
Yeah, but all 3 of us were in that band, and this is the remnants.
So the
Yeah, we're
song
like,
wasn't
"Get outta here."
the song wasn't originally about, you know, the actual man in the mountain.
No,
but
it was
now-
about
but then it
kind
did.
of like me being, you know, I mean, I'm only 32. I probably wasn't really a man when I wrote it, but it was me being like on a mountain, you know, and sitting high on a mountain listening to what he has to say, you know.
I think majority of people that now hear it probably do believe that that's what it's about. Do you think that it's morphed itself into almost a theme song about? I mean, because if you do listen to the lyrics,
Yeah.
a lot of it does almost feel like it's telling that same story of it going away, falling apart.
I'm totally cool with that. Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, when we play a bunch in New Hampshire and we sing it, you know, and people like kind of that haven't seen us before, they're old timers or something, and they kind of peer up because we started singing about the man in the mountains, you know. However people want to interpret it is totally okay.
So let's take a look at some of the lyrics, and right off the bat, like you were just telling the story of you going up and the inspiration coming along. The lyric goes, sitting high on the mountain, listening for what he has to say. He says, I've been aging here for years, and you're the first one who came here to play. He says, play me a song, little man, as you rest upon my crown. You call for the wind, and I'll rattle the ground. Together we'll spread that harmonious sound. You talk about that little section right there, and what it meant to you. And obviously the first portion of writing a song is usually where the inspiration comes for the rest of it. So
Yeah.
what were you thinking when you were writing this?
That's basically me, like, sitting on top of the mountain, like, my butt's on the rocks. The rocks, you know, are part of the mountain's part of the land, and it's this whole, like, cycle of just living, you know, on the earth kind of thing. And I've kind of, you know, I guess Native Americans as well kind of have beliefs of, like, you know, these mountains may kind of take on, like, this persona of, like, a human or a person or, like, a man or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the way I was looking at it when I was sitting on Camel's Hump. And I didn't see any other banjos up there, and so, you know, I was playing to the mountain as far as I was concerned. There's a bunch of birds flying.
So
So you were sitting high.
I was sitting high on a mountain, yeah, listening to what he has to say.
So later on in the song, you say, some years later, I went back to the forest just to take a walk around. I followed the trail towards the man in the mountain and remembrance of his sound. I hiked all the way to the top, and what did my eyes see? A little old man in a rocking chair said, hey, don't bother me.
Yeah, that was literally, I went and hiked that mountain again, you know, a bunch of years later. And I was thinking about those lyrics because I hadn't been on that mountain since. And that little old man in the rocking chair is me. And I'm the guy that's over sitting on the edge of the rock playing a song. And I'm like, this little old man, like, I'm playing music, don't bother me. So I was kind of like just looking into the future about it a little bit.
Very cool. Said what you do, what happened to you as I stood, stared in awe. Where's the wise old man that I sang with? Not a person, not a human, not at all. He stood up and started walking slowly as he stared right into my soul. He said, hey, little man, you're still awfully nice. This mountain yours, my time's to go. You dissect that a little bit for us?
Read it again.
You got a tough one.
I did.
Yep. Said, what'd you do, what happened to you as I stood, stared in awe? Where's the wise old man that I sang with? Not a person, not a human, not at all. He stood up and started walking slowly as he stared right into my soul. He said, hey, little man, you're still awfully nice. This mountain's yours, my time's to go.
That's a great song.
Can I tell you my interpretation?
Yeah, because I mean that, like, it kind of, it comes from, you know, in different times of my life, in people's lives, if they write lyrics or write songs, their styles and their ideas morph, you know, so that kind of lies a little more in the spiritual realm, you know, and like as I was writing the song, there's a little bit of reality to it, and there's a little bit of like metaphor and spirituality, and that's kind of where that lies. It's hard to explain that because it was a moment kind of thing.
Sure.
But I mean, like, you could interpret, you know, the man in the mountains, like that could be the old man too, you know, in that line.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm revisiting him, and since I'm back, he's like telling me the mountain's mine now or something.
Cool. What's your interpretation of it?
My interpretation of that specific line, just after hearing it right now, is it's kind of like passing it on, passing the music on. You know, if you think of the whole story as just like a whole, maybe a lifelong, like a young person goes up the mountain and plays and then revisits the mountain and then is now old, and then, you know, then it's their time to go and let somebody else come up and, you know, have their music, you know, ring through the mountain, or, you know, just kind of keep it moving.
Sure. Jeff, what do you think is what's the crowd reaction to that song? It's a staple of what you guys do. You play it, I would say, the majority of live shows that I've seen you play it, and it's definitely one of the most popular songs that you guys have, and people definitely interpret it differently. So what do you see from crowds when you guys are playing that song? What's the overall reaction, do you think?
Eyes are usually closed.
Yeah, my eyes are usually closed.
That's a good point. Your eyes are
But,
usually closed.
You know, it all depends on the mood of it, you know. One of the things I really like about that song is it's a really good jumping off point to go. You know, a lot of times, maybe not so much anymore, but for a while we were really digging deep into the middle section of it and kind of exploring some different sonic environments. You know, that's what I that's the part that I really enjoy about it, is the whole middle section that's kind of, you know, we do have a form to it, but, you know, for the most part, we can do whatever we want with it, and we can make it as long as we want and as short as we want. And I think that that's really the cool part. And it builds up to a point where, you know, when it drops back into the song, it's definitely pretty powerful.
You guys seem to have a lot of songs that you can interpret on the fly and either create a little bit more jam to it, or if a crowd is reacting, you can keep something going. And is that something you guys rehearse or you implement into your songwriting, or how do you find the ability to be able to do that on the fly depending on what song it is that the crowds are reacting to?
I don't think we could do it with anyone else. Like, we can't rehearse it. Like, all three of our personalities just happen to kind of be like that, and you know, and it's just like it just comes from knowing someone really well. Like, maybe these guys as well, but I can know, you know, I could probably tell what kind of note or around, you know, what kind of change Jeff is going to go to on the next, you know, one count of the next measure, you know.
We played
vice versa.
This one cover song last week, and we've been playing it. It's a pretty good, hard-hitting song, and we've been playing it pretty much the same way for a long time. And last week it was just completely different and like short and staccato. Billie Jean.
Oh yeah.
And it was just a completely different song.
It was weird.
It was very, very weird and strange. But you know what? It was a strange show, and it sounded strange in there. So I think we kind of react to the environment too, in terms of adapting our songs to a given night or a given crowd. It's just all the factors. I mean, you can't really replicate it in a rehearsal. So, I mean, it just happens on the fly, and, you know, most of the time it seems to work out pretty well. Sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes
but
it's a flop.
I mean, you gotta take those chances though. It's like a conversation. You know, you can have three people that can't talk to each other, and the conversation is, how's the weather? You know, how's the fog? How's the wife doing?
Good.
Or like you can get into, you know, theoretical physics and talk about quarks and different universes and fourth dimensions and whatnot.
Well, Jason can't.
Jeff
Sitting high on a mountain listening for what he has to say. Since I've been aging here for years, and you're the first ones can't get away. So play me a song, little man, as you rest upon my crown. Kick off on the wind, I'll rattle the ground together with rhythm. This sound. So where do we call out to the wild as the sun try to see the core? To play for the rivers and feed my children, I'ma share this with others and more. Together we'll sing, together we'll dream about the man in the mountain. Yes, we'll. Forever we'll live, forever we'll give. Won't you please come back again? Won't you please come back again? Together we'll sing, together we'll dream about the man in the mountain. Forever we'll live, forever we'll give. Won't you please come back again? Together we'll sing, together we'll dream about the man in the mountain. Yes, we'll. Forever we'll live, forever we'll give. Won't you please come back again? Won't you please come back again? Won't you please come back again? Won't you please come back again?
So let's talk about Girl from the Cape. John, why don't you tell us where the song came from and how it was written?
Well, I was with this girl who lived on Cape Cod, and at the time, I thought she was, she was the one. Thankfully, things ended up like they are, because now I'm with the girl that I'm with now. But back then, it hit me pretty hard when we broke up. And actually, I can pinpoint the point where everything just kind of flipped. And we were actually sitting on some rocks out on the Cape. And so, like, we went back to the house, and I left, and that was that. And then I remember sitting outside one time just with my guitar and started just strumming the tunes, and it just kind of like flowed out of me. It was all in like one or two sittings. Sometimes it takes a few sittings to like get everything rolling, but this one just needed to get out.
So let me read a couple lyrics here, and you can dissect them for us. It's a lot harder than you realize, but I guess that's just how it goes. Though the boat was shaky, rattling and achy, I never once swam to shore. I could have swam in the boat, not sank, and dreamed sweet dreams with you forevermore. Drowning with you is better than dying without you. Why don't you talk a little bit about what that means to you and why it became part of the lyrics?
That it's actually kind of, this whole song is very specific, kind of, almost. What had happened was that we had an argument on like around Christmas time, and that argument was like the first and like really worst we ever had, but all of a sudden something in her flipped, and unbeknownst to me, brought some issues up that she had not yet dealt with. And so for the next 3 months, I was literally felt like I was being dragged behind a car. We were still together, but we were losing it, there was nothing there. So basically, when it finally happened, when we finally broke up, when she called it off, she tried to play it off like it was going to be easy. Like, come on, we haven't really been together. We haven't even hardly been together for 3 months. It's easy. You should just let it go. Just let it go. But I couldn't do that. I was in love at that time.
Probably my console.
Hey, where are the tissues at?
Yeah, we should have tissues,
Well,
right?
that's what I'm saying. The songs I used to write were based out of these dark, depressing periods.
But I think a lot of songwriters find a lot of inspiration in
hardship.
darker times
Yeah.
because a lot of songwriters find that's their release to it. So,
And this definitely was.
so my personal favorite lyric from that is, because you swam right out away from me in the middle of the storm, swam from me tenaciously and left me there to drown. You never even looked back to see if I'd gone down. Yeah, I'm still drowning in the waters of that dream you took when you left town. Drag me down, drown me out. What do you mean by, because you swam right out away from me in the middle of the storm, and also, you never looked back to see if I'd gone down? Was there a lot of animosity towards the subject in general, if that's what we're saying, is you're just angry that it was cut off the way it was?
Yeah, I was pretty angry that she did not give it a chance. I was pretty angry that she couldn't just face what it was and give it a chance to talk it out. So we're in this boat, it's in the middle of a storm, in my head. And, basically instead of helping me bail out the boat and try to sail to brighter days or whatever, she just dipped. She just jumped right out and didn't even look back, running from herself, running from whatever it was that affected her. And I'm sitting there left in the boat trying to get it to shore, I tried not to let it sink, but then finally I had to, bail out. And that's when I was drowning in the waters of the dream she took when she left town. See, I didn't realize you wanted touch and let it all go. It's a lot harder than you realize, but I guess that's just how it goes. Yeah, and the boat was shaky, around the lake, yeah, I never once swam ashore. I could have sat in that boat and not say it brings me to you forevermore. Yeah, much clouds moved in with the rain and wind, and I'm left there. When I turned around to ask you how your walls were up, then you were there. Yeah, you swam for me in the middle of the storm. You swam for me tenaciously and left me there to drown. You never even looked back to see if I
I think listening to this song, it makes me think more traditional bluegrass as opposed to what a lot of people relate to Jatoba as being a very progressive sound. Do you guys find that in your songwriting you go back and forth between those basics of bluegrass and the basic sounds of bluegrass, and then how does it become Jatoba's sound? Because most people, when they first see Jatoba, there's absolutely the bluegrass fundamentals, but most people are going to say you're very far progressive from where bluegrass usually sits. So how do you choose which way a song is going to be? If it's going to sit more in those traditional sounds, or if it's going to be warped and created into something that's a lot more advanced?
I feel like most of the time it's not really even a choice.
It's what it is.
Just, yeah, it kind of is what it is. And I mean, the content of a song will often dictate where the musicality of it goes, sometimes, there'll be a song and we'll be like, oh, and it'd be awesome if we were just like, went totally out right here and went into something completely off the wall. And then other times, I mean, with a song like that, it's obviously very deep and very, it's got a lot of substance to it. I mean, I couldn't imagine trying to screw it up with trying to put in some funk groove in the middle of it. It wouldn't be appropriate. But some of the lighter subject tunes that we have, that is appropriate. And I feel like the content of the song itself will more often dictate, what it's going to sound like in the end.
I don't think we don't try to define our sound. It's just our three personalities together playing music, and that's what it is. And like what Jeff said, the songs, it's kind of beyond us, and we don't sit here and make decisions. All right, let's write this kind of song, and let's do this because this is what we normally do. I know that we strive to write songs that don't all sound the same, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. But it just kind of comes out,
A lot of times too, if there's some part of a song that sounds, that's pretty far removed from the rest of it, a lot of those things spawn from the spontaneity of playing it live. And we'll be playing it live, and then all of a sudden, we'll just, I don't know how it happens, but we'll just break into something like that, and we'll get into a groove, and then next time in practice, we'll be like, yeah, that was awesome, we should keep doing that, And because of that, a lot of the songs that we play have taken on different shapes over time. Even the ones that we play regularly have, undergone structural changes and sometimes pretty drastic ones. And I think it's because of that, it's because of that atmospheric kind of thing when we play a show and something happens that's unexpected, and when it's good, you want to kind of hold on to it, and that's what happens.
When it's bad,
we just...
Do you guys find that there's a ebb and flow to the style of stuff you write, or a song like that's obviously very vulnerable and has a lot of underlying tones to it? In the same rehearsal or in the same songwriting session, are you sitting down with lyrics to like Nashville Mama that is more of a fun, outgoing kind of that freelance kind of a writing concept? Do they fall into the same night, or do you guys find that you sit in things that are a little bit more heavy for a while and then you go into a different kind of a concept for a while? Or
I feel that we kind of treat each song as its own world. We could sit there and work for an hour on Girl from the Cape, and then, put our instruments down, change instrumentation, kind of shake it off.
So you have the ability to flip the switch and go from whatever it was to something completely different, really just by, okay, it's time to move on to something new?
When we play live, we don't approach it quite like that, because we try to have the songs somewhat have a little bit of flow to it. Mm-hmm. But during rehearsal, sometimes I'll just stop right in the middle of the song and be like, wait, I don't know what I'm doing. What are we playing,
I think
we're like, that's a D.
And I'm like, oh, I was playing an E flat.
One of the important things I think that we've learned slowly over the years is that when something's not working, just stop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Don't fight it.
And we used to, in the early days, we would try and force it. and that never really produces anything of value.
Except
Here's
frustration.
all the songs we have now.
Except more angst to write more songs with. But if you have to know when to just, if something's not working and you're trying all these ideas and nothing's happening, then just forget about it, move on. Do something else, because it's,
And maybe come back to it later.
right.
Just
Maybe 3 years
be a
later.
little more in the moment of it. Yeah.
So we were just referenced Nashville Mama. So let's move on to that. And Jason, you wrote this song.
Co-wrote.
Co-wrote.
Yeah.
Co-wrote with.
A friend that we collaborate with a lot. He's I would call him a lyricist of ours, but his name's Brother Country, and he lives in Nashville. So this song stemmed from him. Like, he'll send me one-liners all the time, or like a verse, and then I just run with it.
Oh.
And so he actually, I called him up one day, and I'm like, hey man, because I already had the music. I was like, all right, here's this tune, here's like, this progression. It kind of has this kind of feel to it. And I called him up, I'm like, brother, I need a chorus, and he just basically, like a day later, sent the chorus, Actually, you probably don't know, but he sent
That's why we're here.
Yeah, he sent
I
the
didn't
chorus.
even know that.
Now I
sent
do.
the
I didn't
chorus
even know
over, and then that, and many conversations later, I'd run stuff by him, and he would be like, well, what about this? And I'd be like, no, I don't like this. And then I'd be like, what about this? He'd be like, no, we should stop working together. But then, but then it, and then I just kind of took it. Like, I've taken a lot of poems of his and turned them lyrically into music. And
Is that-
a lot of it peppers through a lot of Jatoba songs.
Do you find that to be more difficult to relate to personally when it's somebody else's, I don't want to call it inspiration, but somebody else's line or somebody else's thought process?
Yeah.
Do you find it more difficult, or is it?
I don't,
Or is
because
it
I
more of a
can-
challenge?
I don't view it as either. It's just I'm not as attached to it, so I can look at it more third person and be like, this is more of a story. Like, my wife wants me to write a love song for her, and I'm trying, and I keep telling her, I'm like, we're still together, John, and she's like, John wrote a love song, and he's like, and I'm like, well,
look
they're
at
not
that
together
turned out.
anymore, and I tell her, I'm like, the best love songs, unfortunately, come after this closure.
That's true.
Love hurts.
So, but with Nashville, I kind of wrote it. I took the verses and applied it to his life in Nashville, because the chorus was personal for him. Release me now from Nashville, mama. What was the
Set me
rest of
free
it?
in
Set me free
Tennessee.
It's hard to come up with it either line. I don't need this drama nor you disrespecting me, so release me now from Nashville and set me free. Those are his lines.
And
so
what do you
I've-
think he was trying to say
He
with
wanted
that?
out.
He just wanted out of the whole scene.
I think he got out, didn't he?
He got
did
out.
go-
No,
he
not
got out.
of Nashville. Not out of Nashville.
But of
He's
Right.
that scene.
of that relationship, and so but there was plenty of times where it was the best relationship of his life. Like any relationship, ups and downs and stuff. And so, if I remember correctly, I kind of spoke about both aspects of or multiple aspects of relationship. It's about a woman. It's about living in a city with your woman.
And also, just to say something about relating to the actual song, like this guy is a brother to us. I've known him for a long time and know what he's going through. So even though we might not be able to relate to it like from like a first person kind of view, it's still personal because it's coming from a good friend. And I'm sure as he was writing these words, Jason and him were talking a lot, and Jason knew what was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, we all did, but
So there's a level of research there that might not necessarily
Just by default, because
just by
we're
talking.
so close.
Right.
Yeah, and he never, takes offense to anything. I could be brutally honest in lyrics that we collaborate with, and he just accepts it because he's a poet too. Like if I knew his web info, I would totally plug it now, but I don't.
We can plug it in post.
Yeah.
So let's look at one of those lyrics. So I'm sitting in the old sweet South with the blind and blind stress, straight out on the run, no time left to unwind. That urban scene we'd thought we'd seen now seemed to be a mirage.
Yeah, so he's living in the South in Nashville, and you know they live in a very urban neighborhood, and you know his idea for living there and being with her theoretically was this whole other world from what it kind of turned out to. It kind of turned to be a mirage. You know, it wasn't quite there. He could like reach for it, but he never like, could really grab a hold of it.
On the general side of things, Jeff, what's been the most interesting song to you personally that you guys have written? Either had the most fun with, or just.
Better answer correctly. My song.
I can't even really think of them all at this point. I'm not just going to plug the new stuff.
I mean, there's got to be a song that when you play to a crowd, you've got to enjoy it at least a little bit more than some of the others.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, it goes in cycles, you know. What was the song that I never wanted to play it for the longest time, and I was hating on it hard. Remember that?
Yeah.
And I would just, every time we were writing a set list,
Ed Brown, was it?
No, it was
a vocal thing.
It was something else, and then it really turned right around, and I really liked it again.
Is that because the song changed, or because you changed?
Because I changed,
Yeah.
for
I think
sure.
he quit smoking.
No, this was way back.
Oh, okay.
What was that? I'd be interested to.
I remember every
it.
time, I don't remember what the song is. It was just, I don't remember which one it was, but I don't know. I mean, they all, you know, on any given night, they all they all have their ups and downs. I mean, sometimes, there's songs that we consistently nail every time, and it's just, you can tell that none of us are really feeling it, and it's, and then the very next night we could tear it apart, and it's there's no rhyme or reason to it really. I tend to be a fan of the ones that have something that's really straightforward and harmonious for bookends, and can go completely, can go just completely out into space during the middle of it, which we do that with, we can do it with quite a bit of them, but, there's certain ones, like Ride Slowly Ride I really like, because, we get into the middle of it and it's this upbeat bluegrass song about drinking and women and the law.
Yeah.
And then it,
No law, no
it
law.
breaks way down in the middle and gets real quiet, and it has a really beautiful section that, it really grows and builds into something really nice, and then comes right back into the drinking, booze, and women law kind of thing at the end. And I think that kind of, I don't want to say formula, but I mean, those tend to be the ones that, put you on an energy roller coaster throughout it while you're playing it, and that's kind of what I like the most. Also, playing like the same bass line over and over and over again, I like that a lot.
I'll take note of that.
Yeah, I love
Bass
that.
players.
But one note,
I'm like the exact opposite.
one note preferably. Just boom, boom.
So you guys right now have Deathfire and Picnic Tables, which is available on your website, jatobamusic.net.
Also through iTunes.
Through iTunes. You can find them on Reverb Nation. Look up Jatoba. You can also find them at cidermag.com. And any plans for the new album? What are we allowed to talk about the
No.
concepts and the ideas coming for a new album?
Well, can I just preface real quick by saying we do have another album called Come Back Home, which is available for free.
Absolutely
on our
free.
website.
Download it on our website.
Yep, you can download it for free.
There's
six
seven songs, and I think there's like 9 videos of the recording sessions themselves.
Which was done up at a cabin at a lake somewhere,
Up in-
right?
Yep.
Up
Correct.
towards
There
the
also is
kingdom.
It's like -10 the whole weekend.
there's a heartwarming video of me singing and playing solo on my bass about various aspects of the female anatomy. So be sure to check that one out.
That Jeff actually has.
I was the cameraman on it.
Move to Inside a Mirror, and John wrote this. And this is an older song, right?
Yeah,
At
I-
least in Jatoba terms. When did you write the song itself?
I probably wrote this in 2004.
Okay,
2004.
four-ish.
Far.
2004 or 5. Yeah, we're out there in Colorado. No, so I was out in Colorado. Jason and I played a lot out there, and we actually played this for a good solid year, probably.
As a duo, did we play it with Tim and
I think so.
Fiore?
Yeah, I think we played. Basically, there's a lot of different influences that kind of went into this. First of all, after the fact, I realized that I kind of ripped off a John Hartford tune.
Which one?
The one where he's like, I forget the name of it. Like,
It's not Good Old Days, huh?
no, it's on Steam Powered Airplane though. But only like the first 2 chords, and then the rest of it is mine. But it's like, but it was subconscious. I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna rip this off. It was just one day I was just listening to the music in my head and just started going with it. Yeah, and the lyrics kind of were a mixture of a bunch of different things.
And what is the song about? What were you thinking about when you wrote it?
Well, kind of like maybe the first premise was, looking at yourself in the mirror and not knowing which side of the mirror you're on. Meaning, because around then there was like, there's some little bit of turmoil going on in my brain. I tend to like, I'm a Libra, so I balance everything out until it turns into a tornado, and then it's, and it's out. But this particular one, I can't recall. It's been so long what sparked me actually writing it, but I think it was right around the time I broke up with this guy.
I knew it was coming.
But it's not necessarily, it's
Time
not
we got to
about
the
a
point.
breakup though. It's just that time in my life was like, I was inspired, by being in, kind of like a semi-dark place. It's not really a dark song, but there's things in there about tornadoes and storms and
Right. So let's look at one of the lyrics. So high had I thought I flew, with my thoughts and my visions only slightly askew. Yet my beat never left, and it lives at that grave, 'cause I can still hear it, and it's still trying to save. The only one beat that could ever coincide, it never left me, 'cause it never died.
I think that might be like a very vague allusion to the idea that I had that the person I was with might have been, yet again, like, just I saw myself with this person, and then when that kind of fell through, I was still, the grave represents like what I thought I had, but it's like, dead, buried, and dark.
I picture like a little heart that you wear like right here.
What?
Because you wear it on your sleeve, buddy.
That's what good songwriting's about, man.
I know, man.
So what, going to the chorus, in my vertigo, in my dizziness, in my drunken haze and dancing, like a spinning wheel, I saw myself at the source of existence.
That actually had nothing to do with my experience, other than I really related to it. Around the time I was writing the song, there's a melody in the song that I was going to music school at the time, and we had to write a melody to a poem. And so that was a Rumi poem that I had written a melody to, and then I kind of just to fit the song had the Rumi poem, and then I rearranged the Rumi poem to kind of fit the rest of the chorus. But that was about what I was feeling at the moment, in my dizziness, in my vertigo, in my dizziness, in my drunken haze, and dancing like a spinning wheel. I'm a spinning wheel, the source of existence. It's just kind of like I was looking inward at that point in time, and probably drinking a lot.
emptiness at the source of existence, 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 existence.
I pulled my heart from my sleeve just to wipe my eyes with the leaves. Then I took off to fly away from that grave. No way had I died, I'm alive today. So when I had a thought I flew, with my thoughts and my vision only slightly askew. Yet my deep never left, and it lives at this grave. I can still hear, cause it's trying to say only one beat that can ever go inside. It never left me, cause it never died. Only one beat, and it lives at my deep. It's a deep kind of fear that'll keep me inside. Inside the mirror, inside the mirror, inside, 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 inside,
Thank you once again for joining us here on Line by Line, presented by Cider Mag TV. And a big thank you to Groovegrass Kings Jatoba for sharing their stories and their music with us here. Be sure to visit jatobamusic.net for a lot more. Until then, keep checking in with us at cidermag.com for all the best in Vermont and New Hampshire entertainment, and keep hitting the Switchback entertainment calendar, giving you everything worth doing in the Twin States every day. We'll see you next time on Line by Line. I'm Brian from cidermag.com, Vermont and New Hampshire's entertainment authority. I want to thank the guys from Jatoba for joining us in the studio today. And see? I want to thank the guys from Jatoba for joining us in the studio today. And remember, you can find everything about Jatoba at jatobamusic.net.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us here Line by
I'd like to
Line.
thank Brian Joy, Cider Mag, and a big thank you to Groovegrass Kings
Jatoba for sharing
their stories with us.
And a big thank you to Groovegrass Kings Jatoba for sharing their stories and their music with us here as our guests. Stay tuned next time. That isn't there. There's a word missing.
All right, let's do it.
Which camera are we looking at?
I want him close.
Oh, like real close?
Hey, Chuck, you
don't have.
zoom in.
He has to zoom.
Oh.
Can you just get our heads? Like bring it in.
Get your nose.
Heads.
Like do like fish.
You're flat. You're not that flat.
There.
Yeah, that's it. Let's do just our first note. Just hold your first note.
TV.
All right. Let's practice it.
2,
1, 2, 3.
Alright, go ahead.
Hi, we're Jatoba from Brattleboro, Vermont. You're watching Cider Mag TV.
Let's not hold it that long. Though.
TV.
Not even that long.
TV.
2, 3, 4.
Hi, we're Jatoba from Brattleboro, Vermont. You're watching Cider Mag TV.
Yeah, okay. That
One
you
more
guys
time.
had it right.
One more time.
2. Well, we're just practicing.
Are you gonna give us a little?
No, this is for real.
Oh.
This is for real. So, silence! Hold on.
I'll do it.
You tap. Bring closer. Head closer.
Dude.
Hi, we're Jatoba from Brattleboro.
You're watching Cider Mag TV.
Ready? Stern faces.
Hi, we're Jatoba from Brattleboro, Vermont. You're watching Cider Mag TV. Hi, we're Jatoba.